speaking of emergency disaster response and politics at the same time, President Joe Biden went down and visited the Florida, the site of the collapsed condo building. The workers there stopped work for a while out of fear of another collapse. Things were not stable. That was around the time that Joe Biden came around and gave some speeches, told everybody what a great job they were doing, pat him on the back, grabbing Ron DeSantis. You know how Biden does that power move where he grabs people, grabbing Ron DeSantis, crazy Republican, anti-critical race theory Yahoo, and saying, we're going to give you, cucking him supremely and saying, we're going to give you all the money you need, buddy. Don't worry about that. We're going to get all the money. So, you know, but I just got an alert on my phone. They just evacuated a nearby building. And this also ties into climate change with flooding and hurricanes, rising sea level, and the fact they built this damn building on a marshland. We talked about that last week. I mean, it doesn't look good, folks. The rest of the people they're searching for, I think they're searching for bodies at this point. It's very sad. Let's see. Joe Biden went and visited. Oh my goodness. Here's some updates. A few rescue workers have caught coronavirus. Jeez. Potentially complicating rescue efforts is Tropical Storm Elsa, which formed Thursday in the Atlantic Ocean. The National Hurricane Center said Thursday. So they got a tropical storm coming on the way. Biden said he intends to have the federal government cover state and local costs incurred by the catastrophe. So, you know, I know these things, if we're counting, pluses and minuses. Joe Biden did not win Florida. He goes to Florida. He tells them, we're going to pay for everything. The Fed's going to pay for everything. Whereas during our wildfires last year and in years previous, Trump was blaming the Democrats. You got to rake the forest. Everyone knows you got to rake the forest. What's wrong with you, right? And he threatened to remove emergency aid and fire funding for firefighters because it's just a Democrat state, poorly run Democrat state. But but again, keep in mind the Congress is batting back and forth a infrastructure bill, and I hardly hear Democrats linking this collapse of a building with an infrastructure bill. What's really disgusting about this, listen to this. The majority of the Florida Condo Board quit in 2019 as squabbling residents dragged out plans for repairs. So this sounds so really annoying, like just depressingly, what's the word I'm looking for? There's just a depressing amount of, in this story, like just distinctly American stuff, like this high-rise apartment building has a little board, right, and it's all made of residents, and it, like, they had to make these repairs and they just put it off for too long because it costs a lot, and they were even putting a lot of that cost, like every single resident had to chip in. And it was like $80,000 per person to just do the basic repairs. Oh, and guess what? The longer they put them off, the more expensive they got. Listen, it's the president of the board of the Florida condominium that collapsed last week resigned in 2019, partly in frustration over what she saw as the sluggish response to an engineer's report that identified major structural damage the previous year. Annette Goldstein was among 5 members of the 7-member board to resign in 2 weeks that fall, according to minutes from an October 3rd meeting, at a time when the condo association in Surfside was consumed by contentious debate about the multi-million-dollar repairs. Quote, "We worked for months to go in one direction, and at the very last minute, objections are raised that should have been discussed and resolved right in the beginning," Goldstein wrote in September 2019 teen resignation letter. This pattern has repeated itself over and over. Ego battles, undermining the roles of fellow board members, circulation of gossip and mistruths. I am not presenting a very pretty picture of the functioning of our board and many before us, but it describes a board that works very hard but cannot, for the reasons above, accomplish the goals we set out to accomplish. J and Your World, why can't the landlord do this? I'm pretty sure they're the landlord. Like, I think a lot of people owned their apartments, and so they have a relationship with the bank, but then the building itself, you are part of this, there's a tenant run or a owner run board. Debate over the cost of the scope of the work, along with turnover on the volunteer board, dragged out preparations for the repairs for 3 years, according to previous unpublished correspondence, condo board minutes, and other records kept by the Homeowners Association. It's an HOA. It's an HOA, guys. So the Republican anti-regulation Florida local government isn't doing anything to through building code and building inspection to hold them accountable and make them do this. And then you have our neoliberal dystopian society, you have a board of volunteer tenants or homeowners, apartment owners, trying to hash this all out, and then really big expensive stuff happens or needs to get done. Listen to this. Concrete restoration work had not yet begun when the building partially collapsed June 24th. This is in 2019. They had a collapse, or in 2018. Identifying the cause of the catastrophe is expected to take many months. It is not clear whether the problems identified in 2018 played a role. At least 18 people were killed in the catastrophe. 148 remain missing. Sorry, the June 24th was this year. But they had some other, I remember reading this, they had some other issue, like something with the pool, something collapsed with the pool. Despite increasingly dire warnings from the board, many condo owners balked at paying for the extensive improvements, which ballooned in price from about $9 million to more than $15 million over the past 3 years as the building continued to deteriorate, records show. So they would kick the can down the road and be like, we can't afford $9 million. And then a year or two later, they're like, now it's $15 million. They're like, whoa, we can't afford that either. And now hundreds of people are missing, dozens dead. It's terrible. And former board member, quote, "The question is, why did it take 3 years to get to this point? It took a lot of time to get the ball rolling, and of course there was sticker shock. Nobody truly believed the building was in imminent danger." Well, now they're taking a little more serious. Another building down the road from this one has been evacuated because of these same concerns. And I mean, guys, the Washington Post reached out for comment from a bunch of these former board members. Some of them are missing. Some of these former volunteer board members are missing in the rubble. So sad. This is really sad. But again, as I said last week, this is preventable. This was totally preventable for lots of different reasons. But notice how many of those that we just heard about in some way are there's economic market reasons for this. Right? There wasn't a government regulatory agency spurring this condo complex, this building, to repair itself. No, it was just a volunteer board, and they thought, we could slow walk this, we can take our time. And it's just sad that a bunch of people are going to have to die before the local government is going to start getting its act together with this and enforcing stuff, doing checks and code enforcement. That is that's a thing that if you look into city politics, city government rather, that's one thing, is like there's good building inspection departments and there's not so good ones. And who knows what other factors are going into this that we're going to find out in the future.